Hello and welcome to another Wilderness Tamed video, and in this one we're going to be showing you how to turn some rather unappetizing ligustrum ovalifolium or privet hedge into some slightly more appetizing edible produce. And this is all stuff that I've produced on the allotment: peppers, onions, potatoes, a carrot, a half-eaten courgette. They don't grow half-eaten, that's actually, I've had some of that. Some smashing peppers and the occasional cheeky cherry tomato. I'll edit that bit out. Huh. They are so good. Yeah, it's the cycle of life. Turning hedge into edible stuff. There's a cunning in-betweeny step, but essentially we're going to be eating bush. So here's the hedge with the convenient path for catching all the bits underneath it. Bit of a landscape design tip there. So I'm feathering in from the outside sort of tips of each stem, gradually working my way in towards the wall of the hedge. So I'm cutting all the bits up quite small as I go. I'll do the same at the top there. See, I'm just taking off little bits at a time, knocking it back, so just gently trimming the bush. And then, so there's all the little bits on the path, nice and easy to hoover up with the leaf sucker upperer. And this chops them up even more, so they're really finely chopped up when you're ready to use them on the compost. So there you go. Nicely chopped privet hedge, and that's ready to go to the allotment. The other extreme is you could completely dismantle your hedge, run it through an enormous chipper like this and turn it into a pile of sawdust. But that can be used very handily in the compost heaps. And here we are on the allotment, and we're going to layer this up using lots of green stuff, old stuff like this, and the hedge. About 3 days I think I came back to this, so it's got the conifer chippings in, it's got hedge clippings in, there's been grass, there's old compost added in there, and it's all layered up layer after layer. Can you see all the wood lice and the worms on the top there? It's absolutely thriving with life. And if I dig down a little bit, can you see the steam coming off it? Going a little bit deeper there. Go on, get your hands dirty, don't be afraid. That's it. Now you're into it. Look, it's absolutely belting hot. It's almost too hot to touch. It's incredible. So we'll leave that for a few more days. Come back and turn it again, probably. This is a separate heap with fresher stuff in, but the stuff below, I get below the grass cuttings there, that's steaming away nicely. It almost looks like ash. There you go, you can see the steam. They genuinely get properly hot. If you do it right, good compost heaps will generate a phenomenal amount of heat. Get really warm. So I'll tuck that up and leave it for a few more days. And then once it's done, you can put it directly onto the soil. You can put it into raised beds. There's some tomato plants growing in a raised bed just in the compost. There's my parsnips. That's in a sort of double-decker bed. Now I set those away in the greenhouse. We'll have a look in. And that's just compost that I've generated on the allotment from garden waste. There's no fish blood and bone, there's no gromo or any proprietary stuff. This is a wheelbarrow full of compost just tipped on the soil, and plant me courgette plants into it. And I've had some cracking courgettes. They've been huge, some of them. Really smashing plants, nice and healthy, good fruits, and even an enormous marrow. So hopefully that's given you a better understanding of one of the many cycles in life, and gives you a reason to sort of start thinking about why you should produce your own compost, and the sort of the benefits of doing that. A lot of people in the UK, they pay the council, the local authority, to provide them with a bin, which they put all their garden waste into, and then the council takes it away to facilities where it's composted, and then the customer then goes and buys compost from DIY stores or garden centres. And I know locally that there is a big composting recycle place that supplies a lot of the garden centres with compost. So essentially the customers are paying twice for the same thing when they could be making it themselves, saving them a lot of money. And other people just don't quite grasp what compost is. And they think, oh, it's going to attract rats. It's just stinky sludge that piles up in the back of the garden and they can't get rid of it. And they certainly don't consider that they can actually use it to grow stuff in, mulch the beds with, improve the soil with. Yeah, and it's vital for all these things. I had a customer once who, and again, she couldn't grasp the concept of compost. And I used to take all the waste from her garden across to the sort of paddock at the far side of the woods that she owned, and just pile it up. But it was great because I sort of turned it now and again and kept an eye on it, and randomly some potatoes grew out of it. And at the end of the year, I went and dug them up, and they were massive, sort of pink-skinned potatoes, lovely. And it was a good crop as well. So I took them to the house and presented them to her, and she was like, "Ooh, no, I'm not eating them if it's grown in the compost." I was like, "What's your problem? The compost, it's like the healthiest soil you've got around here." And she says, "Well, it's not soil, it's compost." And I said, "They're exactly the same thing. The soil might have more sort of rock-based things in it, like grit and sand and pebbles and stuff, but essentially it's decomposing plant matter, microorganisms, invertebrates, and water. That's what soil is." But she wouldn't have it. She wouldn't have the potatoes, so I took them home, and they were bloody lovely, I have to say. So score. But a lot of people think that way. A lot of people think that compost heaps, they take up space, they smell, they attract rats. Actually, that's all tosh. If you're getting rats in your compost heap, you're putting something in there that you shouldn't be putting in, like cooked food or meat or bread or something. Yeah, so there's nothing really undesirable gonna live in your compost heap. And smell, they smell great actually. A good sort of stodgy heap of compost just smells rich and earthy, and it smells healthy and organic. It doesn't stink. I mean, if it's sludgy and wet and waterlogged, then yeah, it's going to stink. But you've constructed it wrong. You haven't put enough brown, dry stuff in there. It's got to be 50-50. So there's some myths out there about compost, really. If you get it right, you'll benefit from it. And I've benefited from it this year. It's changed my life. I've found nothing more satisfying this year than tending to my big steamy heaps